Hello and welcome to this second workshop looking at the play of Wit and Science by John Redford. We've already done a first look exploring session. We did a relatively swift first look where we read it and we did discuss it, and that video is available on YouTube. But we didn't perhaps give it quite as much detail as I would like, and there's lots of questions about this and the related two other plays with very similar titles but not exactly the same titles, which confuse the hell out of us. There's a lot of work to do on that in terms of trying to turn this play back into a play that functions in its own right, because it's missing the opening, but also getting the best out of the three plays and trying to find the best material that we like working with. We are, for those reading along at home with an edition that has line numbers, we're going from about line 224, 5-ish. For anyone who's just following the videos, we've just dealt with tediousness. The monster tediousness has killed our central character. Wit has died. But like so much modern television, fantasy and science fiction drama, Wit will come back alive within minutes. And one of the first jobs we're going to be looking at here is trying to come up with ideas about how this should be staged and what's going to be going on there. And we may dance around a bit with some of the rest of the text we're going to be looking at today. And we'll see what happens. To help explore this wonderful text we have in this room once again, we have Eric.
Hello. Hi.
We have Alan.
Yes, sir.
We have Valentina.
Hello.
We have Helen.
Hey.
We have Aliki.
Hello.
And we have Rachel.
Hi.
And I am your host, Robert. And we are, as I say, returning since yesterday with most of the people who were here yesterday. We have, in our time off, also been playing around with a few clowning exercises and things. So we're quite ready, aren't we, people? We're very ready and enthused. Yes, we are. Yes, we are.
Yeah.
We know exactly what we're doing. And we're going to dive into this text now. So we've got in front of us a stage direction. Tediousness has just killed Wit. Wit is lying on the ground. His mates have all run off. And we have the stage direction. Here cometh in honest recreation, who we've heard talk of earlier. Big question coming up as to what honest recreation represents. We also have these characters who are mentioned only in passing. Comfort, quickness, and strength. Now, we're not going to be allocating parts per se. We're going to be throwing parts at people, and whoever puts their hands up first will get different parts. But technically, comfort, quickness, and strength have no dialogue. They're presumably just really good singers, because what we're looking at now in terms of text is technically a song. And it's a song during which honest recreation, comfort, quickness, and strength are going to revive Wit. So we're going to just read through the text verse by verse. So I'm going to ask Alan to read the first verse of this song, When Travel's Great in Matters Thick, please.
Yes, sir. When travel's great in matters thick, have dulled your wits and made them sick. What medicine then your wits to quick? If ye will know the best physic, is to give place to honest recreation. Give place, we say now, for thy consolation.
And Helen, next verse, please.
What is that wit that we seek then? Alas, he lieth here pale and wan. Help him at once now, if we can. O wit, how dost thou? Look up, man. O wit, give place to honest recreation. Give place, we say now, for thy consolation.
So we've done two verses of, I think, 6, and again we're getting a sense of a narrative flow, which I'm quite liking. We're getting a sort of opening gambit of the people coming in. We're the best physic, aren't we? Honest recreation is the best physic to people who are unwell. This is obviously a truth that is self-evident. And then the second verse is addressing, where's Wit? Ah, he's lying here, pale and wan. He's dead. So I'm wondering about choreography here. About how are they entering? Any thoughts in the room on these?
So what instantly occurs to me is that they come in singing this as if this is their song, kind of like the dwarfs in Snow White singing "Hi Ho, Up We Go." Here plays to honest. Now let's see, where is Wit? You know.
Mm. Yeah,
and then trip over him.
yeah. Yes, he was waking up, and then they knock him unconscious by walking on him again. Helen.
Yeah, I mean, I had a sudden mental picture of them coming in on point.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like ballet dancers. I don't know why. That always strikes me, especially in the very young, as looking incredibly funny and stupid. I know it's incredibly painful, skillful, and aesthetically utterly pleasing, but I've never seen the point.
You've never seen the point of point.
It's too difficult.
Yeah, I like that. Yes, that they have that first verse essentially is an introduction to them. The second verse is them engaging in the action, maybe knocking into Wit. I like and then I feel like they're grabbing Wit, and you know, and this is a very, very physical action and series of actions. Eric's thoughts.
I was gonna say that, you know, at some point they probably, you know, like that thing that people do at birthdays, or like if they're gonna throw you into a pool, like when some people pick up your legs and other people pick up your hands. I think that's what they would do. It'd be like, yeah, we're gonna throw him. No, we're not. Yeah, we're gonna throw him, and then it's like, oh, he's awake now. That's very good.
Yeah,
or
yeah, it's that oh Wit, how dost thou? It's like the ground. No, look up, man. Kind of thing, and
we're just slapping.
Weekend at Barney's, kind of.
Yeah. Not the first early modern play we've referenced that with. Turns up more often than you'd think. Any additional thoughts before we collect some more data? A leaky. Next verse, please. After place given.
After place given, let ear obey. Give an ear, O Wit, now we thee pray. Give ear to what we sing and say. Give an ear, and help will come straight away. Give an ear to honest recreation. Give an ear now for thy consolation.
And the constant earness there after the last one, which involves sort of looking up. He's pale and thin, but are they shouting? You know, give it, listen, wake up. Quality to that. Helen.
I think that each give ear line is sung or said by a different one of the three.
Well,
I think they're very much taking it in turns there.
Well, it is that question of how these break down, because they have a sort of chorus, last two lines at the end of each verse, which are variations on a theme. Give place to honest recreation, give ear to honest recreation, for thy consolation. So it might be that the first four lines of each verse is sung by one of them, or all of them, or one at the time, and then everybody definitely sings the last two lines, if that makes sense. There's all sorts of ways you can break it down. Eric.
I feel like this could be a joke about prosthetics, where like Wit is wearing a prosthetic ear, so that it's like give an ear, which is actually a gag that I would borrow from the Robin Hood and his Merry Men, where they just one of them goes, "Lend me your ears," and they just throw ears at him. Yeah, I don't know, something like that.
Yeah. Okay. Silly gags are good. We like silly gags. Helen.
There is a way of doing this actually seriously. On the grounds that honest recreation is a way of improving your health. I mean, I'm not saying one should take it seriously, but I'm just saying it could be taken seriously.
Well, I think there is an underlying serious point, even though it's it seems the general tone of the play is an interesting mix of comedy and seriousness. So I think there's a really interesting mix there. I think you're absolutely right. If wit can give in to some level of pleasure, then tediousness will be banished from his withered things. So maybe it's all about how beautifully they're singing. And again, if we've got beautiful singers, there is that element that could go with it. So look up at the beautiful things, give ear, listen to the beautiful things, and tediousness will be banished. Helen.
Honest recreation I see as sort of Scottish country dancing.
Excellent. we will
Kaylee.
we may get more.
No. Kaylee is not honest.
Well,
I'm talking about, those very pointy, those very organized people who used to do it on the television when I was a child. The White Heather Club or something.
Yes. Oh, God.
Yes, quite. But very honest.
Yes, and was anything worn under the kilt?
Valentina, take us into the next verse.
After ear given, now given eye. Behold, thy friends about thee lie. Recreation I, and comfort I. Quickness am I, and strength hereby. Give an eye to honest recreation. Give an eye now for thy consolation.
So we've gone from the hearing to the seeing. Look at us, and a nice little pun. I quite like, give an eye. It is I. Boom, boom. And they're all introducing who they are as well. We've got recreation, comfort, quickness, and strength. And Helen's point about that the who's speaking is slightly more amorphous. Clearly, obviously, it's recreation, I, but it could be they all sing recreation, and that recreation goes I. How you piece that out is a decision to be made. I don't think there's an absolute answer. Eric.
it could also be like I as in like yes, sort of. Sort of give an I.
Give me an R. Give me a C.
Yeah.
Give me a Q.
Stop that war.
Leaky.
Okay, so I know I'm being very literal about this, but I really do kind of want them to get an ear and then try and pry his eye open. And
Well, Rachel.
No, I agree. I agree with Aliki. That's what I was thinking. Like that they'd be pulling him this way and that way, like opening his eyes and his ears and pulling on his hands and his feet and things like that.
If there's a show that he's supposed to be watching for his honest recreation, there, I don't know. Do we go full Clockwork Orange? That strap down, the eyes are blinked open. Watch the show. Watch the show.
For some reason, I'm seeing Marty Feldman.
Other thoughts? Okay, Eric, give us the next verse, please.
After I given an hand give ye, give an hand, O wit, feel that ye see. Recreation feel comfort free. Feel quickness here, feel strength to thee. Give an hand to honest recreation. Give an hand now for thy consolation.
So, so we've gone from what are lovely things to see, lovely things to hear, lovely things to feel. Do we have a little felt, different surface kind of things that you give to toddlers? Here are lovely sensations to feel on your hands. I'm trying not to make this too rude.
you failed.
It's like a bag full of things, and like dipping his finger in things.
Feel this. What's in the bag? It does feel like feel comfort free. That feels like a tagline for some kind of product.
Fabric softener.
Yeah. So he's gone through all of these things. He's gone through listening to beautiful things. They've revived him with singing, with beautiful visuals, maybe of dancing, the beautiful dancing of those people. maybe when it comes to give a hand, maybe the more literal interpretation is that they help pull him up and hold him up, rather than going down the slightly more sleazy route, which is fun. But
But that's
Aliki.
the next verse.
Yeah, but I think there might be a transition. You know,
Okay.
if you're trying to pull him up and he keeps falling down, I mean, this is the thing. How do you revive him? I do think we need some sort of cultural paddles that go down. Clear! Poof. Burst of opera. Here's a good book. Bam, bam, bam.
Or a duck quack.
Yeah, you know, all sorts of things that can raise him from his stupor of tediousness. Here is an instructive jigsaw.
A
Eric.
short burst of Tosca.
Yeah.
I just really want to put on Thriller now because this is Thriller. It's like waking up with everything.
Actually, if Comfort and whatnot, you know, I mean, all the lesser restoratives were actually to start doing that sort of dance, it would be quite good.
Well, it's just the idea that if they sort of do that sort of like the electric jolting of that we get in, you know, television. I'm trying to think of a hospital drama that's current. Actually, I'm trying to think of. When I was younger, there used to be loads of them all over the shop, and I was trying to think of one that hits the zeitgeist at the moment. Anyway, some kind of hospital thing, but you get flashes of images and music and things every time they do it, and it's there could be something quite dynamic and interesting about that. I'm quite interested.
Richard Chamberlain was in one, but it was never dynamic or interesting.
No, that was yeah.
You remember that with Dr. Gillespie?
Emergency Ward 10, wasn't it?
Emergency Ward 10.
I didn't want to. Yeah, I was thinking that's not very current.
I think that was pre-colour telly.
Yeah,
Oh,
I was
Lord,
gonna-
yes.
If we're going to be getting to Dr. Finley's casebook in a minute.
Okay, Janet.
Eric,
I was
Rachel has
thinking
no idea
more
what
of
we're
a-
talking about. This is all very, very esoteric British television from the 1950s and the early 60s. Eric,
I was
please
just going to
save us.
suggest a Frankenstein sort of like he is alive
Yes.
kind of moment.
Yeah, the Mel Brooks version, I feel.
Yeah, definitely.
We have one last verse. The stage direction, I have actually moved the stage direction than where you're reading this from. It was actually in earlier, but at the last verse, they riseth him upon his feet, and so make an end. So this is the final verse. Rachel, have I asked you to read? I don't think I have. Upon his feet, please.
Upon his feet would God he were. To raise him now we need not fear. Stay you his hands while we him bear. Now all at once upright him rear. O wit, give place to honest recreation. Give place, we say now, for thy consolation.
So stay you his hands while we him bear suggests that actually they're no longer holding his hands, you know, while we just hold him up. Is that, am I interpreting that right? So it's like they pulled him up and then they're just sort of holding him up and
he's flailing about a bit.
yeah, Aliki.
Yeah, I mean, I sort of took it as you hold the hands while we push from behind, which gives me a rear joke as well. Hands on the rear for rear.
Mm.
Yeah, but this whole thing is about manhandling this semi-comatose person into an upright position, which is really hard. Actually, you know, if it's a dead weight, it's not easy to do. So we've got music, we've got dance, we've got physical comedy, we've got Emergency Ward 10. Any other thoughts? Because this is a sequence in itself. This you know, it's only, you know, X number of lines. 30 odd lines. It's actually a unit of action. It's a scene in its own right, really.
Isn't that one of the like sort of acting games where you kind of one of the people pretends to be like sort of floppy dead body type, and then the other person or rigid whatever, and then the other person has to sort of I don't know touch different joints and stuff and sort of make them move. That kind of game could work.
Yeah, and the amount of you know, this is a complex bit of choreography. I mean, this whole sequence is it's a big old game. It is a set piece. It has, just going to the brief sort of the history bit, you know, it has all this crossover with folk drama of you know the knight getting killed and then the doctor coming on and reviving them. So it has a real resonance with other theatre forms from the time and earlier and later, and of which we have very little really concrete data on precisely what they were like at the earliest formations. So this is an interesting bit of evidence on that note. Just throw that one in. Not that it matters to us in the slightest. Okay, we're going to go into the scene itself. So we've got to the point of awokenness. We don't need to worry about comfort, quickness and strength because they do not say anything else. They're still on stage, but they don't say anything. Just a quick question, what comfort, quickness and strength might be? I mean, strength, is that literal strength or is that sort of mental stamina? Quickness being, of course, being alive, the quick and the dead in that context. And comfort, you know, comfort is an interesting one. Any thoughts on those? Are there better names we might want to substitute?
I'm just thinking that we're back into the form of theatre where you've got the virtues and the vices. You know, we're in a sort of seem to be in almost a transitional phase when things are moving from embodiments of vices and virtues into character type drama.
Well, it's all allegorical. I mean, you know, in that sense. So there is a sort of morality element, but it's more about it is trying to teach us something about being, you know, our best self, perhaps as a student. Eric.
Wasn't there a bit yesterday where there was, I think, the instruction was telling Wit to wait for someone to come back with hope and comfort from his love, aka science in this case, so that he could sort of, you know, proceed with the courage and confidence of, oh yeah, he was confident, of, you know, knowing that he is loved and sort of the conviction, whatever.
Well, yeah, it's that thing of what's I going to say? Yes, that he's gone and fought tediousness without all the best weapons. You know, he didn't listen to instruction. He doesn't have whatever it is that he would need, some sort of weapon that science would have given him. So yeah, it's a last-minute, desperate attempt to revive him after a terrible, terrible failure of attacking. Any other thoughts, Rachel?
This kind of like, I think the quickness. I think there's a lot of wordplay that is in this, like how, like Alan said yesterday, if you cut Wit in half with the sword, then he's a half-wit. Then quickness coming now, he's more quick-witted than before. I don't know. I think maybe that.
I think if these are being played by the smaller boys of the company, the singers, then strength ought to be the very, very littlest.
Early modern irony.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, when he's the one who rolls up his sleeve and actually does this lifting of the body, even though he's the smallest.
Yes, you cheat it so that Wit is sort of thrown up in the air. By this,
Yes, so that although Wit is doing the work of getting upright, it looks as if this tiny member of the company, who is strength, is actually doing the heavy lifting.
Yep, love that. Excellent. Okay, we go into dialogue. So I will ask Valentina, could you be honest recreation? Aliki, could you be wit? We've only got 4 lines of dialogue until we're going to stop. So you know, let's see. Wit, you've just been recovered. Honest recreation, who we don't really know what they're like yet, is going to I don't know, give you a quick slap and see if you're awake.
Now, Wit, how do ye? Will ye be lusty?
The lustier for you needs be, must I?
Be ye all wool yet after your fall?
As ever I was, thanks to you all.
Oh, isn't that sweet? Thank you. You know, you've lustier for you needs be must I. It's a weird construction of a sentence, isn't it? But yeah, is wit hitting on honest recreation here?
No, it's not that sort of lust. It's lust meaning joy in its early sense. Sorry.
I set it up to be knocked down. Don't worry, Helen. You did exactly as it was.
I had a feeling that that was what you were intending.
Yes, so it's always making sure that we make sure that slight shifts in meaning do not necessarily distort what we're doing, unless it's fun, which is fine. So, in those 4 lines, wit, honest recreation, he's awake, he thanks everyone for being there, but then we have, and we met Reason the other day, comes rushing in presumably a moderately unimpressed mood. So who fancies being Reason? Rachel, let's see what your opinions of this whole tediousness debacle is.
Ye might thank reason that sent them to ye, but since they have done that they should do ye, send them home soon and get ye forward.
Oh, Father Reason, I have had an hard chance since you last saw me.
I wot well that. The more to blame me when ye would not obey instruction as reason willed ye. What marvel though tediousness had killed ye? But let pass now, since ye are well again, set forward again science to attain.
Good Father Reason, be not too hasty. In honest company no time waste I shall to your daughter all at leisure.
Yea, wit, is that the great love ye raise her? I say, if ye love my daughter Science, get ye forth at once and get ye hence.
And all the comfort, quickness, and strength, those lovely people. The stage direction says they exit here, presumably because of reasons. Just sort of wave them away. Wit continues.
Nay, by St. George, they go not all yet.
No. Will ye disobey reason, wit?
Father Reason, I pray ye, content ye, for we part not yet.
Well, wit, I went ye, had been no such man as now I see. Farewell.
And Reason exits. So lots of interesting things in that. It's really interesting how some of this verse is structured, because some of this verse is just totally ignoring the verse. It's not ignoring the verse line, but the lines are running on so often, so that you can't sort of obey them in quite the same way as you might normally do. I mean, Reason's doing a lot of that running on. But since they have done that they should do ye send them home soon and get ye forward. It's you don't want to be pausing at the end of lines necessarily, because of the way it's structured. Helen.
I have found in my travels that a number of the early modern editors for print used to stuff things into verse which were actually prose. And this may be an example of it.
I don't know. It's rhyming. So
it's rhyming, is it?
Rhyming,
oh, fair enough.
The sense of the line carries on into the next line in a way that pausing at the end of the line with a hard rhyme is really hard to do. So it's a really interesting
rhymed
thing.
Prose.
Yeah.
It's
fair
enough.
Odd. It's not unperformable, but it is sort of, it's very easy to trip one up on a first read. So yeah, I love the way that Reason just comes in and goes, well, you should thank me because I sent them all. It's like, well, I called the ambulance, so I saved you, basically. It's kind of thing. Rachel.
I interpret. I feel like what do you call it? It's like kind of all what is it? All work and no play, or something like that. and that he sends them there as kind of like they're kind of the servants of reason and science, comfort, quickness, and strength.
Yeah, you can only have so much comfort, you've had enough comfort. Now enough of that. Send comfort away. And it's interesting that when it says nay, but they go not all yet. Please don't send them all away. Is he holding on to honest recreation? The other supernumeraries all exit, but he's left with honest recreation. So is he holding on to honest recreation for dear life? And Reason going. He's quite annoyed by that. That element at the end. Because Reason just turns up being. I just wonder how sarcastic Reason is as well. Oh, Father Reason, I've had such a hard chance since you saw me. I what well that. Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, you just died. You're not doing very well, are you? Get back to work and win my daughter's hand. Hard taskmaster is Reason. Eric.
You can kind of see like Wit hiding behind honest creation at some point, sort of going, "Yes, Father Reason, it's okay. I just, I need a break, please."
Yeah, other thoughts. It's such a short. The thing is, all of these things, we're pausing a lot. Actually, the speed of all this now is suddenly moving very, very quickly. It comes on very few lines, very short lines. We've had this set piece song, and then suddenly it goes, "Are you awake? Yes, I am. Good. Get rid of all this fun stuff. It's like the fun police has entered. Reason comes in and banishes all the fun away. Get back to work and win my daughter's hand." So yeah, not much fun, that chap. I'm not sure if it is chap. It could be the mother. I can't remember which way.
It's a father. He's going for balance, though. You have so much study, so much recreation, and that was what people advocated.
Rachel.
No, this is just another thing that I'm like looking at, that I think even though we're missing that first third of the play, that we start off listening to Reason and that Wit does not listen to Reason, and there's that kind of, I don't know, sort of wordplay. I don't know. And also, yeah, I don't know, that there's no, that he can't reason with Reason himself.
Yeah, I know. I think you're right. He's still not listening to Reason, and that's a palpable point. Is that he's only just recovered from tediousness, and he's not really receptive to this yet. We, the audience, know what he should do. Maybe the audience response at this point is, "No, listen to Reason." Can we get that kind of audience response? Who knows? Other thoughts before we move on into a little bit of dialogue between Wit and Honest Recreation, where we get a sense of who Honest Recreation is. We haven't really had much dialogue so far. Honest Recreation has just been standing on the sidelines watching this awkward contretemps between Wit and Reason. And then Honest Recreation gets this... again, feels quite deadpan, this opening line from Honest Recreation. Reason storms off, and Honest Recreation just gets... He is angry. Well, duh. Is my... careful, critical response to that. Okay, let's see what happens here. Honest Recreation and Wit, please.
He's angry.
Yeah, let him be. I do not pass. Come now, a pass!
Nay, sir. As for buses, from hence none passes, but as engage of marriage.
Marry even so. A bargain, lo.
What, without license of Lady Science?
Shall I tell you truth? I never loved
The common voice goeth that marriage ye moved her.
Promise hath she none? If we shall be one, without more words, grant.
What, upon this sudden? The mighty plan bid me avaunt. Nay, let me see in honesty what you can do to win recreation. Upon that probation I grant thereto.
Small be my doings, but apt to all things I am, I trust.
Can you dance then?
Even as I can. Prove me you must.
Then for a while ye must exile this garment cumbering.
Indeed, as ye say, this cumbrous array would make wit slumbering.
It is gay gear of science clear, it seemeth her array.
Whosoever it were, it lieth now there.
And takes off his gown.
Go to, my men, play.
And music plays and they have a dance. Okay, we're just going to pause there because there's a lot to unpack in that.
Oh my god, I didn't understand what I was saying half the time.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to go back because when we're talking about Come On Now at the beginning, a bass, it's got a rhyme with pass, but it's buses, it's kisses. Come On Now. So literally the first thing that Wit does when you're alone is makes a pass at Honest Recreation. So we are going to do this all again once we've talked through it because there's a lot of potential in this scene, and there's all sorts of things going on here. So it's a question of Wit's not going to come out well out of this scene. I mean, he's just had a near-death experience, but he's just sort of had an argument with his potential father-in-law, and immediately comes on to Honest Recreation, who, to be fair, did just save his life. So maybe weird. I don't know how far we want to go with this. How far is Honest Recreation leading Wit on, in encouraging or not encouraging? These are all questions to discuss and make decisions on. One thing that they are going to do is they're going to dance, because dancing has never ever been used as a metaphor for sex ever. So that's never happened. So I don't know whether in the early modern that would be something that might be there. And of course, Wit takes off he takes off the colours of his fiancée, the gown that his fiancée gave him, which also is how he's recognised. People are recognised by their clothes, and it has consequences. This. So there's all sorts of stuff going on here. Just wanted to discuss before we decide on a plan of attack. Rachel.
Oh, I was just gonna say, like, because this is like a student play, like if this was just their school uniform and then underneath they just have plain clothes or something like, I don't know, like fishing gear, like they're dressed to go like, because back then, I guess what do you do as like a kid?
Sword fight usually. Play with hoops. I don't know. Eric.
I was just thinking that, when it goes, can you dance? Then I just really want someone to go like, ole, and, with that sort of, maraca kind of, not maraca, I can't remember the name. But yeah.
Castanet.
Yes, thank you. Or even maracas, I don't know, whatever. Some percussive instrument.
There's lots of little flourishes that could be thrown in. So how are we feeling about Wit and Wit's pass, as it were?
I'm reminded of what Liza said yesterday, that this is a play about ADHD. I think that's it. That Wit has just shown himself to be the part of me that goes, I don't need to finish this today. I can just watch some more Netflix.
Yeah, it's the Wit is always constantly just heading in a straight line. He sees the thing that he wants and he goes straight for it, and he forgets about all the other stuff that's on the way that he should pass by.
Like a clown.
Like a clown. It's strange that we'd be doing some clowning stuff. It's yes. Yes. With wit all the way. Honest recreation is perhaps more of a yes, no, no, yes, maybe, maybe just a dance. Shall we just dance? Is what honest recreation doing here is not going, yes, let's have some sexy times, or yes, we'll just dance very chastely for a bit, and then you can go back to school, dear. Kind of thing. What do we think? How into it is honest recreation?
Not at all. She's honest I hadn't realised honest recreation was a woman. So there you go. To be honest, I think honest recreation is in fact honest.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh no, it's a perfectly legitimate response. I mean, we can be terribly modern and cynical and for a while for fun, but if that's not where the text is sending us. Okay, so I just want to run that again. We'll run it on after that into a bit more dialogue before the entrance of Idleness, who will enter in a moment. I'll read the stage directions, but this time Wit go full sleaze, however you like it. Father Reason's just exited in a huff, and Honest Recreation, politely keep him at a distance. I think that's the game. There is you're trying to keep him entertained, but you're not trying to turn him down too hard, as it were. Okay, Reason, could you do a really loud, angry farewell just to lead them in? Just farewell, pish.
Well, Wit, I went ye, had been so such man as now I see. Farewell.
He's angry.
Let him be. I do not pass. Come now, abashed.
Nay, sir, as for buses, from hence none passes, but as engage of marriage.
Marry, even so. A bargain, love?
What, without license of Lady Science?
Shall I tell you truth?
Ah, the common voice goeth that marriage ye moved her.
Promise hath she none. If we shall be one, without more words, grant.
What upon this sudden? Then, mighty plain, bid me avaunt. Nay, let me see in honesty what ye can do to win recreation. Upon that probation I grant thereto.
Small be my doings, but apt to all things I am, I trust.
Can ye dance then?
Even I can. Prove me you must.
Then for a while you must exile these garment cumbering.
Indeed, as you say, this cumbrous array would make wit slumbering.
It is gay gear of science clear. It seems her array.
Oh, whosoever it were, it lieth now. Here!
Good to my men, play.
And here they dance, and in the meanwhile Idleness cometh in and sitteth down, and when the galliard is done, awkward teenage disco dancing, Wit saith as followeth, and so falleth down in Idleness's lap.
Sweetheart, gramercies.
Why, whither now? Have ye done since?
Yea, in faith, with weary bones ye have possessed me. Among these damsels now will I rest me.
What? There?
They're here. I will be so bold.
Yeah, I'm just going to pause there, sorry, because we didn't put out an Idleness. Among these damsels now will I rest me. Now, am I being too modern in my thought there as to lying in the arms of a woman? What those two damsels, those plural damsels might be?
Ever so poorly in my repute voice.
Yeah, it's I'm not being just too far on that thought, am I?
Yeah, no, I mean, I can see where you're going. Personally, I had literally imagined him between two damsels with an arm around each woman, but we can be cruder if you like.
Well, there's only one. There's Idleness has entered the room,
right.
and he's fallen into Idleness's lap. So he's danced his jig for honest recreation, And it's really interesting actually doing it that way. That was so much clearer. All of that business there, of especially as honest recreation, just going, well, what can you do? Well, you know,
Wow.
I'm apt to all things. I am absolutely. It's, well, dance for me, and you know, you don't get the impression they're dancing. They're doing a slow dance or anything. It looks like there's more a demonstration of dancing, and it's just that moment when it's like, even though prove as I must, prove me ye must. I'm just thinking Wit tries to do a really complicated dance with the cloak getting in the way, and it's just big flappy stuff. And then Honest just goes, yeah, would you like to take the big cloak off before you do the dancing? You know, maybe that might be sensible. So yeah, it's a very different scene once you sort of get that going. It's really nice. Eric.
I just had this image of like, you know, sort of the cartoon thing of, yeah, just hold up, buddy. Like, you know, sort of, you know, having Wit's head in Honest Recreation's hand, sort of going, yeah, no, hold it. Yeah, no, sort of that game. And then somehow that game changes as well halfway through.
And Helen was just putting in the chat a good point about the nature of a Galliard as well. You know, as a dance, it does actually specify what they're actually doing. So I don't know if there's an elaboration that's interesting there to throw in.
Okay.
But, any thoughts on that? No. Okay. Rachel.
No, I just think this is funny because it's like I feel like this is his first like dance. So he doesn't even know how to dress, and then all of a sudden idleness comes and he's like there and he's a ladies' man all of a sudden. But he has no he has no experience or track record or anything. And so it's just awkward, and I think some of that clowning really comes into this scene.
Yeah, it's like the worst disco sort of performance ever from this awkward teenager, and with Honest Recreation being an older and not, you know, of his generation, and then he falls into Idleness's lap, and Idleness is a very different proposition to Honest Recreation. Valentina.
It just feels a bit like Honest Recreation is a bit of a gateway drug.
Yes. Absolutely.
It's our fault at the end of the day. Come on.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just astounded by the way the Wit just goes, yeah, I don't really love science. I mean, ooh, how are we supposed to root for this guy? Eric.
You can kind of see him like one of those guys who like sees, I don't know, maybe a girl, you know, as an awkward teenager, sort of going, yeah, hello. Sort of, well, hello there. Would you like to dance? And it's like, I have gum. Sort of trying to be all suave, but like obviously teenage things.
I think the oddest time I've ever seen someone checking somebody else out who's in theory attached was I was on a train once, and there's two blokes, and someone just decided to check out someone, and the other one said, "Oi, what would your wife say?" And said, "No, it's all right. She's inside at the moment." And everything they talked about was all about prison metaphors and everything. They were basically, it seemed to be everything was about being in prison. It was really, really bizarre and weird. It's the oddest time I've ever noticed that occur in real life. It's got nothing to do with what we're talking about here. But
It
yeah.
does remind me, though, of the time I went for a walk in the park with my brother when I had a toddler. And my brother hadn't realized that him checking women out when he's walking with a woman and a toddler looks like him being a sleazeball.
So, any additional thoughts before we go forward? Helen, how would you like to be Idleness?
Oh, yes.
Excellent. Let us proceed then. So we'll go from just after the dance. Wit talking presumably to Idleness as he's fallen into Idleness's lap at the end of his exhausted dance, and Honest Recreation is clearly not very impressed. I think is a motivation there.
Sweetheart, gramercies.
Why? Whither now? Have you done since?
In faith, with weary bones ye have possessed me. Among these damsels now will I rest me.
What? There?
Yeah, here I will be so bold.
Yea, and welcome by him that got sold.
It is an harlot. May ye not see?
As honest a woman as ye be.
Her name is Idleness. Wit, what mean you?
Nay, what mean you to scold thus, you queen, you?
There, go to. Lo, now for the best game. While I take my ease, your tongues now frame.
Wit, by your faith, is that your fashion? Will you leave me honest recreation for that common strumpet, idleness, the very root of all viciousness?
She saith she is as honest as ye. Declare yourselves both now as ye be.
What would ye more for my declaration than even my name, honest recreation? And what would ye more her to express that even her name too, idleness? Destruction of all that with her tarry. Wherefore come away wit, she will marry.
Will I mar him? Drab, thou coward, thou. When thou hast marred him already now, callest thou thyself honest recreation, ordering a poor man after this fashion to lame him thus and make his limbs fail, even with the swinging there of thy tail. The devil set fire on thee, for now must I, idleness, heal him again. I spy I must now lull him, rock him, and frame him to his lust again, where thou didst lame him. Am I the root, sayest thou, of viciousness? Nay, thou art root of all vice, doubtless. Thou art occasion, lo, of more evil than I, poor girl, nay, more than the devil. The devil and his dam cannot devise more devilishness than by thee doth rise, under the name of honest recreation. She, lo, bringeth in her abomination. Mark her dancing, her masking and mumming, where more concupiscence than their coming, her carding, her dicing, daily and nightly, where find ye more falsehood than there? Not lightly, with lying and swearing by no poppets, but tearing God in 1,000 gobbets. As for her singing, piping and fiddling, what unthriftiness therein is twiddling. Search the taverns and ye shall hear clear, such bawdry as beasts would spew to hear. And yet, this is called honest recreation. And I, poor idleness, abomination. Which is the worst of us twain? Now judge, wit.
By Our Lady, not thou, mwah, wench. I judge yet.
No.
Pause here. I'm going to pause here. However much I'd like that to keep going. I think there's lots and lots of things we need to talk about here. I mean, there's certain bits of business that's important to note here that's sort of hidden in Idleness's speech. I must lull him, rock him, and frame him. So throughout all of this, Wit is being slowly put to sleep. And in fact, we have had the last line of dialogue there from Wit for a while, as Wit is going to fall asleep. It's interesting that basically Wit says, "Ladies, fight over me." Basically, and fight over me by by basically slut shaming each other. In this sort of really, it's a very yeah, it's problematic, but it is also very engagingly written, and so it's that sort of thing that you feel a little bad for enjoying it. Thought, because Honest Recreation really doesn't hold back. That common strumpet idleness, who's the very root. But then idleness actually does make some really good points here about the gateway drug that we were talking about earlier. Helen.
Yeah, I found it very difficult speech because on the one hand, I would like to have been on my feet, really getting these points home and as you say, slut shaming. But on the other hand, I've got Wit in my arms and I want to soothe him. So I couldn't give the insults their full power. I had to do it very, very quietly and, getting it in without disturbing his equilibrium. It wasn't easy.
Yeah, it's an interesting question. Do we sneak it so that idleness disentangles herself and gets Wit, on a chair?
That would work,
and then can actually really sort of go for it, because there is a sense of there is. The thing is, idleness is doing the kind of things that Satan and Vice characters get away with, which is making very reasonable arguments, but deflective arguments. So you think I'm bad. What about Honest Recreation, who's actually worse than me? Look at all this card playing and dicing. I can't be bothered to do any of that because I'm just.
And
idle
she swears by Judas.
Yes.
Which is a very good indicator of that she is the worst person in the room. But it would really work to lay him down on. I mean, there are other dark musicians and things there, to lay him down so that the two of them could really get to some hair pulling, verbal hair pulling.
It would, but also there's something potentially very funny about getting really cross and then he goes, and she has to soothe him again.
Yeah, or forcing this situation where Honest Recreation, who I get the impression is in a sense slightly more intemperate, of just get when cross really going for it, of having to whisper, shh, he's asleep. Don't be so angry. Eric.
Also, it's kind of really well written because it's got like all the really not plosives, but like sort of hard K sounds, like "thou callest thou," and then like suddenly, "when thou hast marred him already now, callest thou Honest Recreation, ordering a poor man after this fashion." And it's like you can kind of see where it changes like through the speech. And then it's like, "the devil set fire on thee, for now must I idleness heal him again, I spy." And it's like, it's this like, you can tell like where the difference is in the words as well.
So that, there's dynamics, so that you can play around with it a lot more. I think it's a really, really interesting question, as these two are set to battle it out. Other thoughts? We've obviously only had really one side. We've got one. Honest Recreation gets a right of response. So Wit, which is the worst of us twain? I mean, it does feel, which is the worst? Not you. Feels like that's a snuggling moment again. Sorry, Eric.
I was just going to add that it's kind of that thing of sort of, I think you were telling me yesterday about like tensions, where you go from like a sort of like a 2 or a 3 to like I don't know, 5, and then back down again and then back up. It's that kind of speech where you kind of go, yes, everything is perfectly fine, and then it's like, I'm not at all angry with you. I'm just putting the child to sleep, so please be very, very quiet, or else. It's like, that's kind of building.
Yeah, so thinking about the and labeling up the speech, just playing around with tension states to just build in that dynamic, and not necessarily think about it in an intellectual way, as it were. Certainly is a good starting point to workshop it and play around with it. That's a really nice way of looking at it. Let's hear Honest Recreation's response. Honest Recreation gets about as many lines, I think, in response. So Wit has you've already lost Wit, I suspect. I suspect Wit isn't listening, but have a go anyway, Honest Recreation.
No, is your judgment such that ye can neither perceive that beast, how she goeth about to deceive you, nor yet remember how I saved your life, Wit? Think you her meet with me to compare, by whom so many wits cured are? When will she do such an act as I did, saving your life when you revived? And as I saved you, so save I all, that in like jeopardy chance to fall, when tediousness to ground hath smitten them, honest recreation up doth quicken them, with such honest pastimes, sports, or games, as unto mine honest nature frames, and not, as she saith, with pastimes such as be abused little or much. For where honest pastimes be abused, honest recreation is refused. Honest recreation is present never, but where honest pastimes be well used ever. But indeed, idleness, she's cause of all such abuses. She, lo, draws her sword to abuse mine honest games, and thereby full falsely my name defames. Under the name honest recreation she bringeth in all her abomination, destroying all wits that her embrace, as yourself shall see within short space. She will bring you to shameful end, Wit, except the sooner from her you flit. Wherefore, come away, Wit, out of her paws, hence, drab, let him go out of thy claws.
Will ye get ye hence, or by the mace, these claws shall claw you by your drab's face.
He shall not need, since Wit lieth as one that neither heareth nor seeth. I am gone.
And so, yea, so, farewell, and well fare thou, tongue. Of a short peal, this peal was well rung, to ring her hence. Let him fall asleep, as full of sloth as the knave can creep. How, Wit, awake? How doth my baby? Neque vox, neque sensus, by a lady. A meet man for idleness, no doubt. Hark, my pig, how the knave doth rout. Well, while he sleepeth in idleness' lap, idleness mark on him I clap. Some say that idleness cannot walk, but those that so say, now let them mark. I trow they shall see that idleness can set herself about some busyness. Or at the least ye shall see her tried, neither idle nor well occupied. Lo, sir.
And we're going to pause there. In fact, we're going to close there. There's lots of interesting markers on that. It's interesting. It does seem that idleness is sort of... Wit is definitely in the chair, and I'm wondering whether they're sort of battling over Wit throughout much of this, whether there's a much more physical relationship. I mean, Honest Recreation has a really interesting point of view. I mean, first of all, straightforwardly, I saved your life. Come on, show some gratitude. But then it's the point is that Honest Recreation is it's not what you do, it's the levels of excess that you do it. You know, no, there's nothing inherently wrong with dancing, as long as you don't do it badly, naughty dancing, and all of that stuff. I'm really liking how once Honest Recreation goes, and idleness is going, well, it was a really good argument she made. Shame he was asleep. And that was a waste of her time. And then just those little markers again in the text. Hark, my pig, how the knave doth rout. I mean, presumably he's just going... and snoring and all the rest of it. So there's lovely details there that are there. And then idleness marks wit, and that's something more for another time. But it's basically is going to paint his face and disguise him so that nobody can recognise him, and turn him into a figure that literally science cannot recognise him, and turns him into a fool in various ways. So. Which we'll play around with in a separate session. Thoughts about honest recreation, idleness, this encounter, Rachel.
I'm assuming like that whoever he was writing this for at the time, like being a school that it was all young boys, that maybe the part of honest recreation and idleness could have been played by twins, because, or that's a possibility that could come up for it, because honest recreation says that idleness passes herself off as honest recreation, and that they trade places. And I think there's a similarity in the way that they physically look as actors that also plays into that, or could play into it. Is something to play with it.
They're very similar ideas, but one's taken to an extreme and one isn't. It's that middle course thing. Moderation in all things is good. But yeah, I think there's a very important question about how this is costumed. I mean, part of my mind is really thinking of going for actually quite a modern, in terms of performance style for this, because I have to say, really awkward teenage disco is really just been flashing through my mind so far in most of this sequence. But that's that other routes are available. Certainly, originally, I would have thought that the costuming would have been quite elaborate for the honest recreation and idleness in terms of how they're portrayed and what do they look like. Valentina.
Yeah, I wonder if it's like the same costume, but like one is beginning of the night and the other one is at the end.
That's nice. Yeah.
That's it.
Well, it's also the question of how you wear it, is one a little hoiked down and hoiked up in the right places, as it were. How you can start with a very respectable, as it were, inverted commas, costume, and have it moderately adjusted so that it looks quite different. Eric.
Also, I guess kind of to follow on from Valentina's point, kind of like one of them having a kebab in hand, kind of 3 a.m. kebab. That could totally work. Also, I had this image of wit just falling off the laps of idleness, just like sort of, just thought it would be fun.
Yeah, the whole question of precisely how where wit is, where idleness is, there needs to be some sort of chair or position or thing that is big enough for them. It seems that's necessary, or some place so that they can move around, and there's whole questions about that. That's something that needs to sort of be physically workshopped. I think. Other thoughts? No. We've. I think we have answered most of the questions that I intended to ask in this session. I wanted to really nail down who honest recreation was, because we'd never actually really, in the previous session, properly work through the text to actually get an absolute clear definition, and I think we definitely have. We've got a sense of the potential of play that we can have with the reviving of wit, and I definitely see quite a lot of fun stuff to be going there as well. And then dynamic questions about precisely how we stage the lulling into a false sense of security of wit by idleness, and how that works. And then we come to the next scene. That's going to be another session. We're going to be looking at the following scene on that. That's all we're going to be doing on Wit and Science. We're not necessarily going to get all the way to the end in these workshops this week, but we are going to get certainly past halfway, which is the plan. Any final thoughts from the room on Play of Wit and Science so far? Helen?
Yeah, it's not as bad as I thought it was.
Yeah. Every time, every time.
Oh, you've noticed a pattern, have
Yeah,
you?
yeah. Well, no. To be fair, there have been exceptions. Any other thoughts, Rachel?
I mean, like, if obviously there's changes in the way we modernly speak and the way that they spoke then, but I think this is a very, like, cute and clever play, like, designed for children. Also, even though we've also shifted, I think, a little bit in terms of, like how that slut shaming came up and those sort of things. But yeah, I think it's a very clever little play. It's cute.
It is. I think, and we haven't really been talking on a textual level. A lot of these, the dialogue is written these very short lines, in many ways, quite simple dialogue, but actually it's very direct and it functions really well. I mean, we talked a bit about the way some of the scansion works and the way those lines are structured, and that you need to get your head around it. But actually, it comes into focus quite quickly, and I think that's quite an achievement. I also think that actually the general, yes, there are some problematic elements, but I don't think that they are insuperable. Is that actually as a structured message about sticking to your focusing on your lessons and being focused and moderation in things, there's lots there that work. There are obviously bits that don't, but I think we can find ways around those or find ways of framing those. Rachel, again.
That was another thing I wanted to say. I think you can also tell that this is written by a schoolmaster because it has that sort of structure, like that John Lilly play that we did, how there were people that came and then just left and you never saw them again and you thought that they were going to be somebody. You do have, like, you have comfort and strength and quickness, and they come in, but it's obvious that they're just there as like a chorus.
They're the
and
singers.
Not.
Yeah.
So yeah,
yeah.
it's very organized. Like,
yes. In a school play, you have the leads, the people who can, and then you've got everybody else who's signed up who you have to give a part to. I think that in this sense they're all very skilled performers, but yeah, some of them are much more obviously they're the singers or the dancers. That's what they do, and then you've got some who are more acty as well as singing. Because basically you've got to remember that this, as a group, their primary role is to sing, and that they do plays as well. Is a sort of bonus ball, especially at this time. They're not necessarily involved in the level of commercial activity that the company will have later on. For a good half century later, 30, 40 years and beyond. Any other thoughts, Helen?
Yeah, can I ask then? Sorry, I don't know why, but I'd got the impression that this was a grammar school man. But this is in fact a choir school, is it?
It's associated, as far as we can tell, with Paul. The Paul's.
Oh right. Oh yes.
Or
So definitely
the earlier iteration of them. They're not necessarily doing the sort of public performances that you're going to get in at Lily's sort of juncture and those and later. This kind of thing might be performed for the school, or it might be performed at court. It might be, there are lots of questions as to precisely when and why this would be performed. It's got to be performed somewhere, probably, because the script gets rewritten and redone later on. So it must have been performed enough that people go, hang on, we'll have another go at this.
Yeah, well, it's a good moral tale for the kids.
We've just slightly lost Helen there. A good moral lesson for the kids, was that?
Yes, I'm told my internet is unstable. It's not the only one.
Yes, absolutely. No, it does feel very focused on the kind of lesson you'd want to teach the young. Okay, any other final thoughts, Eric?
Yeah, but then talking about like this being a children's play and like teenage play, and then like seeing Aliki do it and Aliki and Valentina do it the way they did, I just feel so dirty.
Yeah, but they're not playing children, and the play isn't necessarily inherently, the characters aren't necessarily children. It's
Yeah,
not-
true, true, but it just feels so wrong.
And
Yeah,
and
yeah.
the particular sense we have that anything to do with even the comical suggestion of sex must be kept away from the idea of children is very modern. I mean, not that I'm applauding anything less, but I'm saying, you know, just because we have a moral revulsion at the idea of small children pretending to be lustful adults doesn't mean that anybody before us did.
Yeah, and we've also got to remember there is a range of ages here. You know, they might be
Yeah.
boys, but they might be, you know, certainly in the early modern sense of being as fairly close to adult in range. You know, they're not necessarily, you know, 8. You know, they could be much older than that. So you know, there is a range there. Rachel again.
This is more a question. Is grammar school for you? Is that like your high school, or is that are you talking about like what age is that? What age is that? Do we have the same definition?
Ooh, who wants to explain grammar school?
Well, grammar school nowadays would be kids between 11 and 18. And they're usually selective on abilities. But within the British system, they are state schools rather than private schools.
In early modern grammar schools, you would take people who would be able to read and write, for which they would go to a dame school or a petty school. And then from about the age of 8 to maybe 14, 15, possibly 16, they would attend a grammar school where they would learn a lot of Latin, possibly Greek. In our whole, the school had a Greek lexicon at this time.
And there's an awful lot of we do need to do some more actual history stuff to feed into some of this stuff now, especially as we start going over plays again. So that's something that we should be doing, and we will be doing in the future. Any additional thoughts about this particular play or this particular section of the text or things? No, I'm seeing everyone should be nodding enthusiastic, saying, "Oh yes," but that would just be confusing at this juncture. All that remains to thank all the readers today. Thank you very much for all your efforts, and farewell.
Bye.